You know what time it is.
Jaman.
Yeah, man.
Welcome to the Cali High podcast. This is your host, Chenzo Nico, and I've been a cannabis connoisseur for 50 years. On the Cali High podcast, we will talk all things cannabis as they relate to California and beyond. From the history of buds in the state, to the laws that now govern its use, to notable personalities in cannabis and how they shape the industry in California and the world, to growing personally and professionally, indoor and outdoors, from flowers to concentrates, edibles to topical cannabis creams, and the people behind the scenes. Reports from dispensaries, cultivators, medical patients, historical documents, and of course, recreational users.
Tom.
Hi folks, this is Chenzo Nico, your host. Welcome to episode 9 of Cali High. I'm here with Joe the Sound Guy, as always.
Hi, I'm Joe, the Sound Guy.
This week we have Tom Schnabel of KCRW fame.
Tom.
He brought us Morning Becomes Eclectic for decades, starting in the late 70s, and was instrumental in changing the culture of music in Southern California, and thereby the Western world. He brought to us world music, and he brought it to a large, influential audience as hadn't been done before.
Tom.
So let's hear from Mr. Schnabel.
Tom Schnabel?
Yeah, he was awarded a knighthood in France.
You talked to Tom?
I talked to Tom.
Wow.
Le Chevalier Schnabel.
Oh, that guy.
Today, Cali High is honored to have as our guest Tom Schnabel, author, journalist, DJ, educator, LA Lifeguard, creator of Morning Becomes Eclectic, and former KCRW music supervisor. In 1998, he was awarded the French Medal of Arts and given the title Le Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres for his work in bringing world music to America, and in my opinion, especially to Los Angeles, and into my house and car on the radio for 40 years on KCRW. Good day, Tom.
Hi, thanks for the nice little introduction, and your French is improved.
Well, I got a little coaching on that, but I hope it was okay. And let me just say here that we are honored to have you here. So,
well, it's an honor to be with you.
Excellent. Tom, we've known each other for 33 years, ever since I was in the Navy. And I want to thank you for being here with us on the phone today in the age of coronavirus. And I'm here with Joe the Sound Guy, who you've also known for 33 years.
Hey, Tom.
Because he was the big voice of Soy Cowboy.
Yes, he was. Tom, I'd like to start off to take you back a few years before KCRW was at Santa Monica City College, when it was in a middle school. I believe you interviewed Peter Tosh, and I was wondering if you could just tell us about that interview and what Peter told you that day.
Peter Tosh came to the station in 1982 to Morning Becomes Eclectic, which I was hosting. Roger Steffens was there because I think I would have been terrified to not have him and his expertise there in the studio with me. One of the employees at the station, I won't mention any names here, went out, drove out in a nice little sort of classic Volvo P1800, and he went out to pick up Peter Tosh at his hotel because he was hoping to get some of the fabled herb mix that Peter Tosh liked to smoke and to share it on the way over to the station. Unfortunately, Peter Tosh would not share any of his righteous ganja with anybody else. So Peter Tosh walks into the middle school, John Adams Middle School, smoking a huge spliff.
Wow.
And he walked into the studio, and the smell is all over the place, and he proceeds to start talking about an experience he had threatening his life.
Who was threatening his life?
He called it Bumbaclot, where he felt the evil spirit surrounding him. He screamed out the word Bumbaclot, and the evil spirits dispersed from his soul and his mind, his room. So he told us those things. This was in 1982. The station manager walks into the station.
Ruth?
And she smells the ganja, and she looks around and says, "What's going on here? This has to stop." And she starts walking by Peter Tosh, and Peter Tosh stands up. He was a very tall guy. He had dark glasses on, long dreads, and is smoking this spliff. And Ruth was so sort of taken aback that she basically just skittled into the office to get away, because she didn't want to have any sort of a confrontation, which is interesting because Ruth, she never did that. But
no, she didn't.
Anyway, she didn't do that. And Ruth was a very, very, very strong leader, strong manager that wouldn't take any guff from anybody. So that was interesting. Peter Tosh is very tall, very black, long dreads, sunglasses, and an incredible singer-songwriter. In what he recounted about the evil spirits that were basically after him, he almost foretold his own death by shooting a few years later. He was assassinated.
Right.
And just a few years later, and he almost foretold what eventually happened to him with that dream that he recounted to us back in 1982.
Wow, that's an interesting story. I first learned the word bumbleclot. It's kind of like an expletive, an execration in patois, I believe, or at least in Jamaica, right?
It was almost not like the way I remember him doing it. He almost sort of he said it very loud to kind of scare away the evil spirits that were enveloping his soul. And when he said it, he saw the spirits scattering. He felt the spirits leaving. So it was sort of an exorcism.
Wow.
Sort of an exhortation and an exorcism that helped rid his mind and spirit of these evil spirits.
Right at the middle school.
Right inside the little converted classroom that was the original KCRW studio.
That's an amazing story. Did the guy that went to pick him up ever get a hit?
Nope, he never did.
Wow. Now, as music director at KCRW, you started Morning Becomes Eclectic on July 19th, 1979, I think.
Well, in all fairness, I have to say that I sort of inherited it. There was another person, Isabel Holt, who was the music director, and she was hosting the show. But I took over, and the day, it was July, I think, 18th?
19th. That's my birthday. That's why we remember that.
It was your birthday, so you always remind me of that. So I took over Morning Becomes Eclectic. It was quite a challenge and quite an honor to be doing it. I'm a music fanatic, always have been. Radio has been very important in my life. For 30 years, I didn't even have a television set. You asked me about the Brady Bunch, and I only found out a few years ago what they were, and then everything else, because I didn't have a TV. I didn't want a TV because I'm into music. One of the first things I did was to bring in somebody named Roger Steffens and also a guy named Hank Holmes, who Roger was like an authority on reggae music. He was a great host. He was very good on the air, very charismatic, very strong. He had been to Vietnam as a photographer. He had gotten hit by Agent Orange. His skin was peeling off his hands for a long time. But he was an expert in reggae music. Hank Holmes, and a great host, a great guy. He could have been on television, but he was very, 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 very forceful and very, very good on mic. Hank Holmes wasn't as good on mic, but he had one of the biggest collections of reggae of anybody in the world, including priceless first edition 7-inch singles that came out only in Jamaica. So he had all those original 7-inch singles and things that many of which never came out on LP. He had the original recording. So between the two of them, we really had our bases covered in terms of reggae. And it's interesting for me, reggae music. I mean, look at the time that reggae started becoming popular, at least in America. In the late 1970s, there was the Jimmy Cliff film, The Harder They Come, which introduced a lot of people to reggae music. But then, Bob Marley came along, Peter Tosh, and people started becoming more aware of reggae, and there was an authenticity in reggae. remember that, we were just coming out of the disco period. The whole hippie thing and the whole Summer of Love died with Altamont and with the Charles Manson killings. So then you start having disco, and basically reggae was something that had an authentic message. And I think that's why it became as popular as it did, because there were a lot of artists who were speaking the truth. And I would say that was diminished in some respect by, with dancehall music, with the homophobia and everything else. But the original guys in reggae music were really wonderful, and they had an authentic message. So I put the show on. I knew that it would be good, and I learned. I always I don't know everything about music, so I listened to other people doing shows to learn things. And with reggae, I learned, Freddie McGregor, Junior Mervin, and, Gregory Isaacs, and so many other people. So I was learning on Sunday afternoons along with everybody else. And the reggae show became one of the most popular shows on KCRW.
Oh, yeah.
It was well deserved. Roger would basically host the subscription drives. He was fabulous. If he wanted to feign an Irish accent, he was perfect. I mean, he was an actor as well. So he could do all these things, plus his knowledge of reggae music was superb, and also his abilities as a radio presenter, bringing you in, was stellar.
Oh, yes, he is quite a technique there. Great voice, too. Okay,
Yeah.
so Hank Holmes and Roger Steffens were co-hosts of the Reggae Beat?
Roger was the host. Hank Holmes was the co-host. They would switch sets, usually about half-hour sets. The program started, I think, at 2 hours, and I think it was so popular that they extended it to 3 hours. So it was 2 to 5 every Sunday afternoon. Good time for radio. It was 2 to 5 on Sundays, and reggae is kind of it's a California kind of music. I mean, it talks about nature, it talks about the ocean, it talks about all sorts of natural things that people enjoy. So I think it was just a kind of a shoe-in for this Los Angeles radio station and California to like reggae. And reggae is still very popular here. There's some of the big reggae festivals happen down in Long Beach. San Diego has a huge reggae fan and community.
Oh, yeah,
so
I've noticed too.
Great. Yeah. So it was really it was a beautiful match, and it worked splendidly.
Well, that's why Cali High is speaking to you today. At least one of the reasons.
Thank you.
Now, did you start the Reggae Night at the Bowl as well?
Yes. I was hired by the LA Philharmonic to start a new series of world music concerts. The first year of it, I was hired in 1998. I hired Laura Connolly, who was at Luna Park, which was kind of about to, I think, close or whatever, stop. So I hired her. She was just absolutely superb. I'm no longer there, but she has risen up in the ranks, and rightly so. She's an incredible booker, incredible presenter. So we started the World Festival in 1998. Unfortunately, KCRW did not sign on for the first year. The new music director didn't really understand the music and didn't want to sign on. When that was a bit of a blow. But in 2000 we had our first KCRW World Festival. But the first year we had reggae. I know that one person who was on was Lucky Dubé, the South African reggae star. And he is one of my favorite artists. I produced a retrospective for Ryko Disc with all his stuff. He was one of the most genuine, beautiful cats I've ever known. Unfortunately, he was murdered in a carjacking in Johannesburg a few years later, but he put out so many great songs, and in many ways, he really carried on Bob Marley's vision, and Bob Marley's themes, his voice, the arrangements. I think he's about as close to Bob Marley as anybody I can think of, except maybe Bob Marley's sons. But Lucky Dubé. So he was in the first year, the 1999. The interesting thing about reggae is that the reggae shows, we booked the reggae shows at around the same time in the summer that Reggae on the River was happening up north.
Up north, yeah.
So many of the artists were already here. So it was not that difficult to bring them down to L.A. for a show. I think a lot of people want to play the Hollywood Bowl. It's not like playing at, some club. I mean, it's an iconic landmark for performance.
A great venue.
So, yeah, it's a great venue, and it's a great way to spend a summer evening. So, with reggae, we didn't have to promote the reggae very much. People just came. There some other people, some other music, you had more obscure artists, or you had something that was harder to promote, let's say gypsy music or something like that. But reggae, it kind of was built in and just sold tickets. People wanted to come to reggae, and a great variety of people too.
Oh yeah, it's been packed every year since then as well.
And it's also there's a lot of atmosphere.
Oh, it's a great night
at those shows. I have my dental hygienist, her daughter from Pacific Palisades, was invited by some neighbors because they had season tickets for the Hollywood Bowl for the summer, and the family went to the bowl for the reggae show, and everybody around their seats, which were down sort of near the garden down in the bottom, everybody was smoking. And they were saying, "Oh, what are they doing here? That's illegal. They can't be doing this," because they didn't know anything about the sacraments of reggae music.
Yeah.
And I also have to say that, the heavy-handed treatment that sometimes happens at concerts if somebody lights up, it's outside, and the staff was pretty cool about all that.
Oh yeah.
So reggae has continued every single year.
Yeah. Now they have like a whole smoking section for the partakers of the sacrament.
I didn't even know that, but we must be in like the 20th season for Reggae Night at the Bowl.
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah,
that something?
that is amazing.
We'll talk about something with longevity, and stickiness. This is one of the musical styles that still has a place at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of competition to get to the bowl in the summertime, but the Reggae Night always succeeds.
Yep. I've taken my 7-year-old twice to the Reggae Night. Once with Ziggy and the Specials, and then with Damien and Third World. Very nice. Well, Tom, Joe, the sound guy, is waving his hand. He's got his hand up like he has a question.
Ooh. Okay. Tom, have you heard of Linton Kwesi Johnson?
Of course.
Is he reggae, or what classification of music do you call that?
Linton Kwesi Johnson is a British reggae artist and poet. He's known as a poet.
His music is very high-tech reggae. It's very modern, very like a revolutionary friend. It's a wild track. Two different.
I'd have to listen to it. I mean, some of the guys, like reggae music. He was at the Studio One, producer.
Coxon, are we talking?
Coxon Dodd. Coxon Dodd was one cat, but the other cat was Lee Scratch Perry. For God's sake.
Oh my God, Lee Scratch Perry. Yeah, Cloaking Lizard and the Upsetters, and he was a producer as well.
I mean, there's so many other people that I like. Prince Buster. My sound goes around. Fantastic. I love ska. I really love ska. And one of the things I love about Junior Francis is that he plays a lot of ska. And ska just has what that's kind of strange, it's hitting on the up. The accent is always on the upbeat and stuff. Even like, the song that got Chris Blackwell started was My Boy Lollipop.
Wow.
Bob Marley made all the money, but that was the thing that got Chris Blackwell on
the reggae scene.
We had Half Pint, Michael Rose, Lion Robbie, Prince Fatty. I like him. Some of the new stuff. Junior Reed, I really like Junior Reed. Matumbi, A Point of View, fantastic English
Oh, that's a
band.
great song. I like that.
Muta Baruka was a heavy-duty cat, a poet. He was a poet. He did some very, very interesting things. And I think sometimes people think, oh, Bob Marley, yeah, I know him. Yeah, Jimmy Cliff, yeah, I know him. It's kind of like there's so much good reggae. And it's kind of like, people used to say, I love Cuban music back, in like late 90s. Oh, really? Who? Well, Buena Vista Social Club. Oh, yeah, who else do you like? Silence.
Yeah, I remember there was a Cuban compilation album came out on World Music, on the World Music label. It was really great, but the names of the people I couldn't really tell you.
Yeah. Well, one thing about reggae is that, you can find a record from New Caledonia, a band, and it'll be a reggae band.
Mm-hmm. It's a worldwide phenomenon now.
Yeah, it's everywhere, and it relates to people of color. It relates to to white people, everybody.
It's every man's music.
It's down to earth. It's not snotty. It's not like it's not like jazz. It's a people's music.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the Congos a lot. I think they're superb. The Congos.
Uh-huh.
They have a record called Heart of the Congos. Oh my God, it's fabulous.
We'll have to check that out.
I like Steel Pulse. I like the English reggae bands a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Linton Kwesi Johnson. I like them a lot. I like Muta Baruka, and I like like I said, the Matumbi. So you could go all over the place.
So, Tom, I know that both of us first heard reggae when we heard the Naughty Dread album.
No, it was what's his name? It was Johnny Nash.
Oh, that's right.
And I can see clearly now, which is a great song. And then the film, the Jimmy Cliff film, The Harder They Come, was out in like 1975. So I saw the film. I didn't understand half the patois that people were using. I couldn't understand a word. I mean, it was like a different language, which I think in a way makes reggae kind of an early world music, at least the music, coming into the States and into Europe.
Absolutely.
I discovered Bob Marley. I was living in Paris. There was a Christmas party at some friends, and a couple of reggae dudes came in. They were Rastas. There might have been one bald head, one guy with no dreads. And they put a tape into the cassette player and started dancing like crazy, just going wild. And I'm going like, what are these guys on? I mean, what's the deal? The beat is like off and strange and everything. I didn't get, what did the Saint Vitus's dance with this music that was so backwards, and I didn't understand it at all. I really didn't. I didn't understand why they were so excited. And then I found out much later that the cassette was Natty Dread.
Yeah.
And
Great
it's an
album.
interesting story that I found out from Roger Steffens is that Chris Blackwell wanted to call it a different name, but
it was a different spelling. It was originally Naughty, as in Knotty, and then Chris Blackwell had it changed to Natty, which totally had something to do with like a top hat worn by the aristocracy in Jamaica.
Right, yeah, by Winston Churchill, which is a really a dumb idea, but he owned the label, so he got his way.
I heard Peter Tosh had a problem with that. I think, was Peter Tosh out of the picture by then?
That's a good question. That's a question for Junior Francis or for Roger Steffens.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Roger Steffens, he's going to be our next guest. So would you like to say something about Roger?
Roger is like an encyclopedia of this genre. He is amazing. I mean, he's dedicated the last, 40, 50 years of his life after coming back from Vietnam and being an English teacher and everything else, to reggae music, and specifically compiling this extraordinary archives, the Bob Marley archives.
Yeah, I can't believe how lucky we are going to be to talk to him. So that's amazing.
You are lucky. You should also talk to Junior Francis. I mean, I don't know much about him personally, but he's a really fun guy. I don't know exactly how to reach him, to tell you the truth.
Call up KCRW.
I don't think that anybody there is going to know anything. Plus, it's a skeleton crew there.
Yeah. Oh, you mean how to reach him now?
You'd have to call him up during his show. Now, I don't know. You might have to set your receivers to mono because KXLU does not get over the mountain.
I know that.
88.9.
I know that.
Yeah, it disappears. But sometimes, if you can't get it, put it in a mono and you might get the signal.
Interesting.
Yeah. Give Roger my best.
Okay, I definitely will give Roger your best. And
okay.
So Cali High is totally honored to have had you, Tom, and thank you very much for talking with us. And I hope you are safe and well during this crisis, and we'll be talking to you soon. I
am. Well, thank you. Keep up the good work, guys, and we'll be talking soon.
Okay.
I'll get a mask. I promise.
Get a mask, or I'm going to kill you. Okay.
We'll talk to you.
Talk to you later.
Have a great day.
Bye.
All righty. Ciao.
Bye.
Oh my God, I am honored. I've been threatened by Tom Schnabel.
Yes, you should be honored.
He's going to kill me if I don't get a mask.
An amazing guy, huh?
He's cool.
Yeah. Very knowledgeable. Yeah. Le Chevalier Schnabel. We thank him for being on Cali High. So next week, folks, we have episode 10, and Roger Steffens is our guest. He is one of the world's foremost authorities on reggae. Roger Steffens. Yes, he's just written a new book called Too Much Things to Say, an oral history of Bob Marley.
Robert
Nesta Marley.